All right, people. We got a lot to talk about and not a lot of time with which to talk about it. Yesterday I had a headache. Today I have a headache and a block party to attend. So, we got to get going. What's up? Hardest job? Hardest job. Hello. No, Elenita, but we'll get there. America is done. Guys, America is over. We did it! We did it. They said we couldn't do it, but we did it. Oh, man. So where do you live now? The city-state of Seattle. This is it's a big one. It's a big one. Vosh is going to Iran. It's an Iranian world, buddy. We're just living in it. Okay. So I was going to open stream by going over the insanely concessionary memorandum of understanding between Iran and the United States, which I genuinely believe, without hyperbole, represents the greatest strategic defeat America has ever experienced. I think that it is far worse than Vietnam. I really mean it. It's unbelievable. But there is a slightly newer development that we have to cover first, because it is also unbelievable. So I have had a hard time gauging how sincere this attempt at brokering a memorandum has been, because, of course, the administration lies constantly, and they do the rug pulls and et cetera, et cetera. You know. The real question on the table is, like, will Israel allow this to happen? My thinking was, okay, this is an insincere attempt by the United States, like before. We know that Israel will not agree to the details of this memorandum of understanding. However, evidence suggests, if you can believe it, that the memorandum of understanding was an actual, sincere, genuine attempt at surrendering from the U.S. Israel was not cut in on the deal. They were not allowed to see the details of the memorandum. They are fucking furious right now. Trump's approval rating has dropped by like 40 points in Israel over the past couple of days, because we are genuinely trying to leave them up the creek. The Strait of Hormuz is reopened. Traffic is moving back through it. So again, like the question remains. She's excited too. The question remains, what are we planning to do about Israel? Because we can survive not bothering Iran. But Israel relies, they're a war economy. Culturally and economically, they rely on this conflict. And they do not want to pull out of Lebanon. Ultimately, like, the inconsistency lies there. What do we do about Israel's unwillingness to agree to any brokered peace deal? Are we going to talk to them about this? Are we going to acknowledge the disconnect? Well. I couldn't believe it, but it's actually happening.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Jordan Conradson with the Gateway Pundit. I want to talk back to the Lebanon component of the deal. There's a report in Axios that Netanyahu's fuming over this. Israel doesn't feel bound to the MOU as it relates to Lebanon. If, as you mentioned, your frustration with Israel striking in Beirut, hitting apartment buildings, if that continues, could it torpedo the deal? And what would the U.S.'s response be to a broader war in Lebanon involving Israel and Hezbollah?
Yeah, well, I don't want to get into hypotheticals that could torpedo the deal, because I think the president's expectation is that all of our friends, the Israelis, the Arabs in the region, we're going to work together and actually see this deal to completion. Now, I saw the Axios report, that Netanyahu is fuming. That's not reflective of the conversations that I've had with him, but maybe he's saying something to somebody else that he's not saying to me. What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you've seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal, and in some ways very personally attacked the President of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time.
We're actually doing this. I can't believe it. We're actually doing it.
And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left.
It's actually happening. I can't believe it. Israel molested the money too much. We're actually reaching a breaking point. J.D. Vance is threatening Israel. This is unambiguously a threat. They're finally saying what everyone on earth is thinking, which is that Israel is the most ungrateful, entitled non-ally the United States has ever had. We have had enemies less antagonistic to our interests than Israel has been. Certainly, Israel is far more antagonistic to our interests than Iran is. Iran is willing to sit down and broker negotiations with us. Israel has just straightforwardly said they will tank everything, every attempt at peace. You think the real pressure to stop fucking with the oil finally came for Trump? Yes, and he basically admitted as much. I think JD's trying to position himself as a sane Trump successor. What this means is that in the war over the Republican Party and the war over Trump, the war for influence over Trump right now, the weight is leaning heavily towards JD and the isolationist side of things. JD Vance is not a Zionist. He was skeptical about the war in Iran. He has not been ideologically very aligned with like infinite definite. I mean, obviously, J.D. Vance will bend the knee to whatever he's told to do. He's a little bitch cuck like the rest of them. But like, he hasn't been pushing for it. It's the Hegseth, Lindsey Graham types that have been pushing Trump for this. And right now, it looks like we're actually positioned to leave Israel up the creek. Now, in my opinion, this is not going to last for long. The reason for that being that Iran, as of an hour ago, has already said that Israel is violating the memorandum by continuing to attack Lebanon. Of course. So we have no idea how long this is going to last. What this does mean is that the unspoken antagonism between Israel and the United States, where they keep compromising our interests, the world's interests in the Middle East, is now being spoken of out loud by J.D. Vance, which is insane.
In the entire world. And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the President of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars.
Jesus Christ.
The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the President of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in. Thank you all.
By the way, like genuinely something no Democrat would be willing to say. This isn't just a backing off from Israeli strategic interests. This is him just straightforwardly saying, you're fucking entitled. This has gone far enough. This has gone far enough. Like now, obviously, I do not want any accolades going to the Republican Party. The only reason this is happening is because they've been pushed to this, and the only reason they've been pushed to this is because they've been the most deferential cuckolds in the world to Israel. Because every time Netanyahu comes over, Trump rolls out the red carpet and the welcoming wagon and tucks him in and puts a bib on and pulls a seat out for him and does anything and everything he's told. And all Lindsey Graham has to do is go to the Oval Office and do a little jingle, and Trump will go along with it for months and months. No accolades are being given here, okay? What we're reaching is a unavoidable breaking point, one that I have no doubt Israel is going to test, but still I really can't believe Trump admitted it the other day at the G7 conference. Trump admitted it after saying for months and months that we don't need Iranian oil.
I'm going to get bad press, I know that. Now, if I did the opposite, if I went out and continued to bomb them for another 4, just bomb the hell out of them, I'd get bad press on that. No, there's nothing I can do. But what this does is it allows the ships to go. If we keep bombing, those ships won't be going. And you're talking about $500, $600, $700 million a day. It's a lot of money, a lot of money. That's why the world is okay. It's liquid, it's fine. Also, we run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. You know, there are reserves all over the world, and we would really run out. And there'll be a time when you wouldn't be able to get it. And you want to see bedlam? So for all those so-called geniuses that want to show me how smart they are, ask them why didn't they blow up General Soleimani? Ask that of the general and A couple of other people that I like very much, but boy, are they wrong.
So Trump is, again, like there's really no ambiguity here. He's just straightforwardly saying it. He's saying the reason we have to sign the memorandum of understanding is because we were 4 weeks away from running out. That's it. We were genuinely, like this was it. We were at like an actual genuine, like Western world brought to its knees, not just Western, but including the Western world. Not China, though. China's reserves are doing fine. Being brought to its knees. Do you think the Cuba operation will go ahead? Sure. Yeah, I don't think this necessarily affects that. I don't even know what's going to happen with Iran because, again, Israel's not going to let this sit. But, yeah, no, this is... the greatest strategic defeat America has ever experienced in its history, without a doubt. And it's not over yet. The most damning, I guess, proof that the Trump administration has been pulled away from Israel, that it's being openly antagonistic towards Israel, is this clip. This is just from a little bit ago, New York Times opinion interview, which, by the way, the fact that J.D. Vance is doing this, the fact that J.D. Vance is the one who gave this speech, the fact that J.D. Vance is the one doing this, tells me that they are all in with him. The Republican Party is gambling that J.D. Vance will be running on 2028 on a isolationist anti-Israel ticket. Not anti-Israel ticket, but like, we're done with Israel. We're not supporting them. We are not going to advance their interests anymore. They're doing the thing. I said that. Did I not say this might happen? Did I not say that if the Republican Party has a break, it'll be with J.D. Vance towards this like antagonism, like tough on Israel, you've had enough stance? We're getting outflanked. Anyway, listen to this clip.
But yeah, you've seen people in their system, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, who've attacked the deal. And I guess my response to them would be, what is your exact proposal? And, you're a country of 9 million people. You can't just kill your way out of solving every single national security problem that you have.
Jesus Christ. Again, like, it's all obvious, but nobody has been willing to say it. Nobody's been willing to say this. It's actually happening. The split is actually happening. I can't believe we've arrived at this point. I mean, he's right in this. Yeah, he's right. Of course he's right. Obviously he's right. Vance tells the New York Times, oh, God. There's a strange panic within the Israeli establishment, which I sense, where it is assumed that anything considered potentially beneficial to Iran will indeed happen, but that it will happen without the Iranians changing any behavior on their part. Therefore, I find this whole wave of hysteria in Israel somewhat strange because, in my opinion, it stems from a lack of trust. The U.S. has rightfully earned the trust of this region. We have done a very good job for that particular country and its government, and I believe the facts do not support the claim we've made a bad deal, which is not... Okay, so... it seems to me like there will almost certainly be a civil war inside the Republican Party. We were up against a breaking point with the oil reserves running out. That would have been the end of the Republican Party. If Trump had presided over the collapse of Western petroleum, that would have been the end of the Republican Party. So their only way out is to get Israel to stop fucking molesting Lebanon. And Israel won't do it because they love molesting Lebanon. So the big split right now is, yeah, how is Huckabee going to respond? Huckabee, Lindsey Graham, Pete Hegseth. What about Christian evangelical hardliners who have been demanding that their flocks send money to Israel for years and years? What about Israel itself? What happens if Israel just refuses to leave Lebanon? What happens if Israel says, like, no, like, we're going to stay there forever. We don't care. Fuck you. Genuinely, like, what yeah. So Netanyahu has said he's not getting out of Lebanon. He's already, yeah, he's saying he's not getting out of Lebanon, which is not surprising. And the most recent update that I got from this, with regards to the violations in the Memorandum of Understanding, Iran warns of canceling all upcoming negotiations, reimposing the blockade, and responding with missiles over the direct violation of the U.S.-Iran MOU's first clause, with Israel continuing military aggressions in southern Lebanon, including last night. So the obvious correct move here from Iran's perspective is to keep twisting the knife on America and on the world until something is done about Israel. Like I've said a billion times, Israel will either succeed in destroying the world or they will be stopped at some point. They will be stopped or they will keep going. And both of there are terrible, terrible possibilities lurking down both of these paths. Push America and Israel will kowtow? Well, that's what Vance is betting on, because I bet you Vance and the people backing him really, really do not want a prolonged battle with the Zionists and evangelicals in the Republican Party. What they want is for these people to finally see sense and take the knee. But I don't know if they're going to. Why is it in Iran's interest to protect Lebanon? Because Israel's a warmongering expansionist Nazi state. Like, if Israel keeps doing that to Lebanon, they're going to keep doing it to everyone. An Israel that takes Lebanon is an Israel that takes Syria. An Israel that takes Syria is an Israel that takes Jordan. An Israel that takes Jordan takes Saudi Arabia, they'll do everything. They have to be stopped. Would you want them as your neighbor? Yeah, no. I don't know. Fucking lawnmowers. What do you think of the Samson option being with the table? I mean, we'll see how bad the like wave of hysteria inside of Israel gets in response to this, but I can't believe we're finally here. I can't believe we've arrived at a we have arrived at a schism so severe that J.D. Vance has to front the Republican Party's interest to finally break away from the doomsday cult that they have built their success off of. Keep in mind that, like, the Republican Party is a death cult. It is an evangelical organization, but that does not mean everyone in the Republican Party actually literally wants the world to end. Hegseth might, Huckabee might, Lindsey Graham might, lots of them might. But not all of them. J.D. Vance doesn't, you know. There are Wiles doesn't. Like, there are lots of people in the Republican Party who would actually just rather preside over a ruined, apocalyptic, pedophile-stricken America, right? Like, Trump doesn't want the world to end. Trump wants to live forever, right? Yeah, Rubio wants to rape kids in Cuba. Peter Thiel wants to rape kids in Argentina, I guess. Like, you get it. Before starting stream, I was glazing. Sorry, not glazing. Not glazing. Glancing, skimming. What word was I trying to go for here? I'll glaze it. You know what? No, I'm taking it back. I'm going to glaze this article. Yeah, from the New Yorker, bringing attention to the big elephant in the room, the question that everyone needs an answer to, but few politicians are willing to acknowledge is even being asked. What do we do about Israel? The Israeli ultra-hawks who feel betrayed by Trump's Iran deal. The New Yorker got this one out just a couple of days after the MOU got released, man. They're working fast. Shimon Ricklin, an anchor on the country's right-wing Channel 14 and a Netanyahu ally, thinks America stabbed Israel in the back. So this is not a nobody. This is a powerful and prominent news anchor on... Channel 14 is like their main news channel, right? I see so much stuff come out of Channel 14. How are the Dems responding to this so far? Genuinely, I think like every Zionist Democrat is doing this right now. Like they're monitoring the situation. Cory Booker's gone insane. Oh, you mean Cory Booker, the person who's part of the Peter Thiel Deep State New Epstein alliance, where he was part of that like secret Illuminati? That guy? What is he? Has he just been nonstop posting about like how we're failing Israel or whatever? Well, anyway. How are you feeling about the emerging deal between the United States and Iran? Totally shook. Totally shook. Unacceptable. Amazing. Nobody understands this. Listen, we have a couple of reasons Israel and America wage war against Iran. One was to prevent nuclear weapons. One was to prevent the development of missiles that could hit in the future, not only Israel, but also Europe and the United States. This goes on for a while. My opinion on this article, which I would read in full if we didn't have so much to get to, is best summarized by the quote tweet that I saw that led me to the article in the first place. Israel is a lunatic asylum. Listening to you, it sounds very personal. It is. You are right. I was in the Oval Office with the Prime Minister several times. I don't know Trump personally, but I was there when we visited Washington. You are right that it is personal. We are best friends. We are friends. What happened? What happened? We succeed. Keep in mind, this is being said out loud. A prominent Channel 14 news anchor is saying this out loud while being interviewed by The New Yorker. What happened? We succeeded. Everything we said would happen happened, even more quickly and acutely than we thought. Except for the strait being closed and the Iranian government not falling. Except for those things, right? No, you keep saying it, and that's your privilege. That wasn't a surprise. But we thought a blockade to their blockade was genius. And they were really close to a collapse. It was close to succeeding, and then you guys were stabbed in the back. Exactly, and we don't understand why. You understand that they are Nazis. What happened to you? Genuinely just fucking delusional. Like, actually mentally gone. It's a hysterical country. Blue Dog Democrat response to it, my statement on the agreement between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran. I am totally dumbfounded by this agreement and, like many, in a state of disbelief. Yeah. Guys, I really, truly do not want the Democrats to be outflanked by the right on this. I really don't want that to happen. I don't think it's going to happen because I think that the Republican Party, by and large, is more Zionist than the Democratic Party. However, it's worth remembering that the Republican Party is also very good at falling in line, and the Democratic Party is not. They are weak, and they are bad at, holding people to a central message. They are, I think, very vulnerable to prolonged infighting, whereas the Republicans can just, like, stomp down on people, you know? The disorganization of the Democratic Party means it's very possible that a small flank, keep in mind it would only take like a 10 or 20% of elected Democrats to make a continuous fuss about this to basically break the party indefinitely, which would throw things to the Republicans forever. We would lose. They would outflank us from the left, even though they are to our right. We all need to get a lot more loudly anti-Israel. As Israel works to undermine this memorandum of understanding, we all have to be much more anti-Israel. They're not only putting the world at stake, they are threatening like decades of American internal political peace. By positioning Republicans as the potential saviors of the United States and the world from Israeli aggression. This cannot happen. I cannot overstate how much this cannot happen. This would be fucking devastating, okay? Schumer would rather the Democratic Party die than win or survive as a party? Yes, without a doubt. And this is the problem. And if you disagree with this or you don't recognize this, you're delusional and you need to wake up. Schumer, leader of the Democrats, at least from the Senate, would rather the Democratic Party die forever than cede Israel, cede American power in support of Israel. This is very, very bad. I can't believe that they're actually doing it. I can't believe they're actually going ahead with it, but they are, and we all have to, like, wake the fuck up. Schumer's trying to sabotage the deal? Yeah, of course. He's complaining here, as I will, by the way, that America has lost, that we have lost to Iran. And that's true. But, you know, we know why Schumer's saying this. He's not saying it, as I am, in a mocking acknowledgement of America's weakness and defeat. He just doesn't want the memorandum of understanding. Very scary stuff. Very scary stuff. Right now, the big thing that I'm waiting on, I guess, in addition to sort of a cohesive message from the Democrats and whether or not like Republican evangelicals flip their shit, is what AIPAC does. I looked at AIPAC's press release, their response to the MOU, and they are sitting on their hands right now. The announced MOU kicks off a new 60-day window for talks. We look forward to learning the full details of the framework for these negotiations, including whether the deal preserves the sovereign right of our democratic ally Israel to respond to the security threat it confronts. What they're referring to here is Lebanon, and the Memorandum of Understanding unambiguously, with absolutely no room whatsoever for misinterpretation, says they have to stop molesting Lebanese children. They have to stop. They have to stop immediately. So it seems like the language here is like AIPAC is almost coming across like delusional to me. Like they're pretending that the MOU does not say what it says. AIPAC versus the money versus the money. Which deranged group of death cultists will win? Is there an argument this is like the shutdown last October and you want it to go on longer to worsen Republican sentiment? I don't know what waters we're headed into right now. It seems like we are in an impossible situation where the Republican Party needs to abandon militant Zionism and evangelical, support in an effort to prevent an even worse catastrophe for the party, which would be presiding over the collapse of the oil market. This is totally uncharted. I have no idea what this is going to turn into. Evangelicals are zealous, but they're also very stupid. They might fall in line if they're told to. They might be told, like, no, the Memorandum of Understanding is actually part of the building of the third temple. I don't know. It seems like Israel is just flatly saying they're not going to do anything about this. Netanyahu and Netanyahu's political opponents are all saying we're not going to fucking stop molesting our neighbors. So yeah, I don't know. What makes this memorandum different from the 9,000 other peace deals we've supposedly had for the past few months? Because a review of the full evidence at hand suggests that this is a genuine effort by the United States to abandon Israel in favor of ending the conflict with Iran. Like all the other bullshit, all the other fake peace deals, it seems, have been like half measures deliberately invoked to manipulate the market. This seems like an actual effort. Israel is being thrown under the bus. The stuff that Vance is saying here cannot be taken back. Like, there is no coming back from this. This is the first time that I can think of that a presidential administration has just publicly said, like, Israel's fucking entitled. You can't just murder your way out of every problem you run into.
But yeah, you've seen people in their system, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, who've attacked the deal. And I guess my response to them would be, what is your exact proposal? And, you're a country of 9 million people. You can't just kill your way out of solving every single national security problem.
Notice how he's not buffering this with the normal, like, meaningless buzzwords. The, like, we will continue to secure the interests of Israel, our only democratic ally in the Middle East. We just, da-da-da. There's not, like, a bunch of puffery on either side of it, where he's like, no, don't worry, everything will stay fundamentally the same. He's just straightforwardly saying, like, you have been entitled. In this bit, and I'm going to play it again, because again, like, I really cannot believe we're here. He is just straightforwardly saying, hey, you have one ally in the world right now, and we're getting sick of you. The United States is the only country that would put up with you, and we're about to not to. You need to fucking stop.
Head of state of the world superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the President of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the President of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in. Thank you all.
Masaigo, I feel like Republican evangelicals might be stupid cattle enough. They might be cattle-like enough that they could be convinced to continue supporting the Republican Party in spite of this, at least most of them. But what I don't see a way out for is Israel itself, because Israeli Zionists are not motivated by some abstract, like, rapture in 10, 20 years or whatever. Like the Third Temple types are trying to bring about the end now, and they are quite influential in Israel. Israel's going to lose its shit. They already are. That Channel 14 anchor, man. They did close the strait and hold the global economy hostage, though, right? Right, but, okay. So it's your money or your life? Let's make peace with Hitler because the goal of the world is money? This is genuine hysteria, not just like calculated political misinformation. This Channel 14 anchor, whatever his name is, I forget. Actual lunatic. Even in Israel, we thought it would be $150 per barrel of gas. It isn't, but it's not good. But listen, it's not all about money. It's not all about money in our life. Money is very important. It enables a good life. Wonderful. He's having an actual, like, mental break here. They really do believe that you're Nazis bullshit? Look, there are a lot of people in Israel and in America who are Zionists for cynical reasons. But there are, like, I would be willing to bet the majority of Zionists in Israel are genuinely just like lunatics. They're just insane. They're just mentally ill. They're mentally ill in the exact same way the Nazis were. The Nazi Party was full of people who knew they were lying for political gain, but it was also full of people who were true believers. People who one day realized, like, holy shit, the Red Army is at Berlin. We're not winning this. And then a lot of them killed themselves. A lot of the Nazi Party, not even to escape, not even just to escape punishment. A lot of regular German civilians killed themselves. These were people who for like a decade had been hyped up on the idea of like living at the precipice of a new world order. And then they just consumed propaganda over and over and over again. They had no idea what was going on out there. And then when the writing was finally on the wall, they couldn't accept it. It happened to Japan too. Yeah. There are a lot of people who are cynically lying. This guy's just insane. Did you know more Nazis killed themselves after Nazi surrender announcement than the Japanese soldiers after Japanese surrender? Really? More Nazis did than Japanese? That is surprising to me. Because if there's one thing everyone knows about the Japanese during World War II, it's that they were all fucking lunatics. Number of people killed themselves in the Japanese surrender were quite low, mostly high-ranking officers, because the emperor did the speech, the rank and file will just like, okay, boss. I guess it does help that Japan got to surrender like properly and Germany really didn't, you know? Me when the emperor declares that the Western devil has earned their right to occupy our shores. Okay then, off I go then. All right. Yes, me lord. Back to work. Unironically, what happened? Hell yeah, brother. Well. This is all pretty crazy, huh? Let me upload this. Gotta get that out immediately. That shit's important. One second. Okay, sorry. That will not be the only thing. That will not be the only breaking news bit we have to go over today. Oh, man. Why the fuck am I so warm? Can I open my door now? Hold on. Fucking lawnmower was going off. Is this how you envisioned an Iranian victory? It's not done yet. Hey, Malice. Hey, folks, been watching since my daughter was born 6 years ago. It's been great seeing your growth, and after 6 years, I've finally made it from YouTube chat to VGG. Yo! That's so awesome! Hello, welcome. God damn, man. Time do be passing, huh? Crazy to think about it. I never expected it to end with a whimper. Shit's not over yet, man, okay? All eyes right now, like literally everyone, okay? I need your asses seated like a black woman is speaking, because we need to pay attention to what the fuck is going on in the Republican Party. The Republican Party is like a reed, okay? They bend, but they do not break. They are very, very, very good at resolving internal disputes because they are an authoritarian organization. They understand that the will of the people is to be bent into shape to suit their needs. In other words, they're good at politics. But there are limits. And the Republican Party has been so committed to being, Jesus Christ, Zionist, pro-Israel, pro-Greater Israel, anti-Iranian, pro-getting rid of Iran's nuclear material, anti-giving Iran money, like pro-evangelical. There are so many lines along which the Republican Party is going to fracture, is fracturing now. Like, reeds can break, you know, reeds do be bending in the wind, but they can also break, like, if you hit them really hard, I assume. I've never actually tried, but I think you could. Yeah, and not just with the leadership, but with the voter base, and not just with the voter base and the leadership, but also with Israel itself, because Israel itself is filled with lunatic, genocidal ethno-nationalists. So, all eyes on the Republican Party. Are we sat like a black woman is speaking? Yes? Oh yeah, I'll get to the actual details of the memorandum soon, but Trump did in fact sign this treaty at the Palace of Versailles. Just genuinely unbelievable. Yeah. No shot? No. They actually made him do it.
So that was the moment, signed, sealed, but does it deliver? President Trump making the Iran deal official at the Versailles Palace outside of Paris, how he's defending the agreement to those who are skeptical. Good morning, everybody. We've been on this for some time.
Yeah, it's actually at the Palace of Versailles. Yes, yes. Macron W for making this happen. It's so fucking funny that every single person around Trump knew what this meant. Trump didn't because he's an idiot, but nobody could tell Trump because they knew if they did, he would blow up this deal. Like, if anyone around Trump was like, hey, Trump, you know what it means that we're signing this at Versailles, right? And Trump realized it would blow the whole thing up, you know?
Next, I'm Bill Hemmer, live in New York City. Hello.
Good morning, I'm Dana Perino, and this is America's News.
You know, we're world champs.
You and me?
Yeah, yeah, just generally speaking.
Just like the vibe feels like we're all world.
Talk about anything other than what just happened. How is the Republican Party going to sell this to its base?
Champs indeed, but the Knicks are fun, and we'll get more of that to you. The parade is hopping already.
Yes, it is.
And President Trump, he is back in the United States. He signed the Memorandum of Understanding with Iran last night. The 14-point agreement is designed to end the war, reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and begin formal talks on Iran's nuclear program, and we'll have all of that in a little bit.
So some lawmakers say the deal does not...
I'm 99% sure I understand the irony, but just in case I don't, will you tell us? The Treaty of Versailles after World War I was signed at the Palace in Versailles. The powers that be kind of ganged up on Germany a little bit, and they all wanted to pin the blame on, like, on Germany because it was simpler than assigning blame proportionally to every country involved. So they all kind of, you know, did an elbow drop on Germany, subjected them to a humiliation ritual a little bit, and also forced them into ruinous reparations, which the Memorandum of Understanding that we have with Iran, despite it not actually being a peace deal, the memorandum is only meant to last 60 days. Despite this being a memorandum that is only meant to extend 60 days, it includes us giving them $300 billion in reparations.
do enough to hold Tehran accountable. We will see about that right in time. The president pushing back, saying the U.S. maintains its military edge.
And it's a memorandum of understanding. If it doesn't get done in 60 days, that's all right. We go back to bombing. You know, I don't want to do that because it's so good. But we might have to, because we're never going to let them have a nuclear weapon. But they've agreed not to, and you'll see that very clearly in the agreement.
Mark Meredith is at the White House where President...
Where's that money coming from? Are you asking if it's Iran's frozen assets? No, no, no. The $300 billion in reparations is in addition to the unfrozen assets. The money's coming from you and me.
Vice President, J.D. Vance, he's going to hold one of those briefings this morning. Hi, Mark.
Dana, good morning to you. He sure will. That'll be in about 2 hours from now. The president arrived back in Washington just before sunrise. He's likely happy to be home, but he is facing an avalanche of criticism from lawmakers in both parties who are not happy with his deal in Iran. The president says this was also about the economy. He posted around 4:30 this morning, "These fools who think I haven't been tough enough on Iran when the stock market just hit a record high and oil prices are tumbling down are either jealous, bad people, or stupid. Make America great again."
Iran has to show change to get the money. Nope. No. We're just giving them $300 billion. We'll go over the memorandum of understanding in a sec.
Now, the deal means an immediate end to the war, an end to the U.S. naval blockade, the development of a reconstruction plan with U.S. and partners, around $300 billion of money going to that, and the U.S. agrees to lift sanctions. The president says if Iran fails to live up to its end of the bargain by developing nuclear weapons, he's more than willing to launch attacks against the country again. Vice President Vance is expected to head to Europe next week to begin the next phase of all this. We'll see if he elaborates his travel plans in today's briefing.
Pay attention. Vance is the one fronting all of this. Trump has to sign the document, but Trump is the one being forced to accept the surrender. Trump is literally signing a second Treaty of Versailles. J.D. Vance, on the other hand, is the one getting to actually run the negotiations, do the press run where he talks about how Israel's being entitled and ungrateful, go to the New York Times and explain the same. J.D. Vance is the one that they're positioning.
But the deal, celebrated by the White House, is generating strong pushback up on Capitol Hill.
Like, if you think about it, everyone has had their opportunity to run the White House except for J.D. Vance, right? Marco Rubio has been the main guy fronting aggression against Cuba and Venezuela. He's been effective in that front. He's also been aggressive against Mexico, though that didn't take off that much from the early days of the administration. Miller had his time in the limelight with ICE. Miller's big wave was ICE in Minneapolis, and leading up to that, the wave of deportations. But that broke him. After that, Miller's been quiet. After Minneapolis, Miller's been quiet. Kristi Noem goes out. Greg Bovino goes out. Like, ICE has been broken, right? And Miller no longer has credibility within the administration because of that. He made them look really bad. He failed too hard. And Hegseth as well. Hegseth with Iran. This is Hegseth's main moment. An actual war. Hegseth is the front runner in this. Everyone has had a chance to direct the White House, to direct Trump, except for J.D. Vance so far. J.D. Vance isn't really known for doing anything in the administration yet, except for that you haven't even said thank you. With Zelensky. That's it. Really, genuinely, like, apart from that, he has not had that. In fact, it's a joke, isn't it? It's a joke to all of us that J.D. Vance is just like a little unwanted runner-up, like a little, turd baby who follows Trump along and does whatever he's told, and no one likes or respects him, and Trump makes fun of him behind his back. That's what, but it seems like now he's finally getting his time in the limelight. And he might actually be doing so in a context which makes him look good, relatively.
Some fear Iran will be more empowered now than ever before.
Here we have with his MOU, it's not even comparable to the Obama deal. It's worse by a lot, by about $300 billion and a bunch of vague language. So I have a real concern as a national security person, and then certainly the cost of this war is being borne by the American citizens.
Louisiana Republican Senator Bill Cassidy also saying President Reagan is rolling over in his grave. Iran's nuclear ambitions were not curbed, and that they have learned that threatening the Strait of Hormuz works and will undoubtedly leverage it in the future. Now Iran gets to build its brand new infrastructure under this deal. Senator Cassidy not
Reagan gave Iran weapons. It was like a thing that happened. He illegally gave them weapons. Something Oliver North. Ollie North. You've all seen the bit.
happy. There are some Republicans, though, that are happy that energy prices should begin to drop. And just today, Dana, AAA announced that gas prices nationally, on average, now below $4 a gallon, just under that. But it's a big difference from where we were just 1 month ago. Dana.
All right, Mark Meredith, thank you.
Sure is. Now, 14 points. Those are the top lines in this agreement here. Going to go through a couple key points. Immediate and permanent ceasefire. That's what they've agreed to.
The deal's a lot worse. We had a good deal with good relations with Iran. We'll take a look at the full text of the memorandum right now to really get a feel for how substantial this defeat is. Here's a chart. You know, it kind of makes things simple. I understand we all have short attention spans. I'm speaking, of course, of myself as well as you guys. If you'd like, you can read over it and just sort of get a feel for some key distinctions between the current memorandum and the JCPOA. Remember, the JCPOA was meant to be an ongoing agreement, whereas the memorandum only applies to a 60-day window, just 60 days. Yeah, it doesn't look that good. So let's take a look at the text of the agreement, huh? From Fox News. But it's the agreement. It's public now. Keep in mind, they hid this from Israel. Israel was not allowed to see the details of the memorandum until after it was confirmed by both sides. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran and their allies in the current war, by signing this MOU, and their allies in the current war, keep that in mind, by signing this MOU, declare the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. Remember, AIPAC is like, we need to find out if this deal prevents Israel from responding to local security threats, and undertake from now on not to initiate any war or military operation against each other, and to refrain from the threat or use of force against each other, and ensuring the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Lebanon. The final deal will confirm the permanent termination of the war on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and other provisions in this paragraph. The U.S. and Islamic Republic of Iran undertake to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity and refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs. Number 3, the U.S. and Iran commit to negotiating and achieving the final deal in a maximum of 60 days extendable with mutual consent. Number 4, immediately upon signing the MOU, America will begin the removal of its naval blockade and any disturbances or impediments against the Islamic Republic of Iran, and will fully end the blockade within 30 days. During this period, the traffic of vessels will be in proportion to the numbers of pre-war traffic being restored by Iran. America further undertakes to remove its forces from the proximity of Iran within 30 days after the final deal. Upon the signing of this MOU, Iran will make arrangements using its best efforts for the safe passage of commercial vehicles with no charge for 60 days only from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman and vice versa. The traffic of commercial vessels will immediately start, and, considering the needs for removing the technical and military obstacles and demining by the... sorry, I need to read slower. The traffic of commercial vessels will immediately start, and, considering the needs for removing the technical and military obstacles and demining by Iran, will be instated within 30 days. Iran will conduct dialogue with the Sultanate of Oman to define the future administration and maritime services in the Strait, in discussion with other Persian Gulf littoral states in line with the applicable international law and the sovereign rights of coastal states of the Strait of Hormuz. America will undertake with regional partners to develop a definitive, mutually agreed plan with at least $300 billion for the reconstruction and economic development of Iran. The mechanism for the implementation of the plan will be finalized as part of the final deal within 60 days. All required licenses, waivers, and permissions needed for the relevant financial transactions will be granted by America. America undertakes to terminate all types of sanctions against Iran. No more sanctions, including the United Nations Security Council resolutions, IAEA Board of Governors resolutions, and all unilateral U.S. sanctions, primary and secondary, in an agreed-upon schedule as part of the final deal. Iran and the U.S. acknowledge the critical importance of the sanctions termination issue above mentioned and express their intentions to immediately address these issues in the negotiations in order to achieve mutual agreement on them. Iran reaffirms that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons. America and the Islamic Republic of Iran have agreed to resolve the disposition of stockpile enriched material pursuant to a mechanism that will be agreed upon in accordance with the schedule mentioned in paragraph 7, with the minimum methodology to be downblending on-site under the supervision of the IAEA. The two parties also agreed to discuss the issue of enrichment and other mutually agreed matters related to the Islamic Republic of Iran's nuclear needs based on a satisfactory framework being agreed in a final deal. This is a capitulation. This is all capitulation from the United States. Iran is doing nothing here. Iran already was not building nuclear, did not have like a genuine intention to build a nuclear weapons program, and had rather strategically postured at it as part of their game with Israel. And the Strait of Hormuz was open before the war. This is all surrender from America. It is a surrender. Frankly, Trump should consider himself lucky that Iran didn't demand the official text of the memorandum include the term surrender. America and Iran acknowledge the critical importance of the nuclear issues above mentioned and express their intention to immediately address these issues in the negotiations in order to achieve mutual agreement on them. Pending the final deal, America and Iran agree to maintain the status quo. The Islamic Republic will maintain the current status quo of its nuclear program, and America will not impose any new sanctions and will not deploy additional forces to the region. America undertakes that immediately upon the signing of this MOU and until the termination of sanctions, the Department of Treasury will issue waivers for the export of Iranian crude oil. Man, even before the sanctions get terminated, issue waivers for the export of Iranian crude oil, petroleum products and derivations, and all associated services, including banking transactions, insurances, transportation, etc. America undertakes to make fully available for use the frozen or restricted funds and assets of Iran upon the implementation of this MOU. America and Iran will mutually agree on the procedures related to the release of these funds during the negotiations. Such funds, whether retained in the original account or transferred, shall be made fully usable for payment to any ultimate beneficiary designated by the Central Bank of the Islamic Republic of Iran. America undertakes to issue all necessary licenses. America and Iran agree an executive mechanism will be established to monitor the successful implementation of the MOU and future compliance with the final deal. The final deal will be endorsed by a binding UN Security Council resolution, which means the whole world will have to sign off an American surrender. Again, this is far worse than Vietnam, genuinely. Nothing America has ever done or not done comes close to this. We failed on every front, and in a desperate effort, we're not even getting the status quo back. Iran is now the regional superpower. The only thing that postures Israel above it is its nukes. That's it. Economically, culturally, politically, Iran runs the fucking game now. They have been given permanent control over 20% of the world's oil and natural gas production. Trump reiterated his commitment to peace, and while it is a fucking tweet, he did call Israel a hindrance to peace. And this is where everyone's eyes need to be right now. The United States is committed to peace, and we encourage everyone in the Middle East region to maintain their commitment to allowing our negotiations to beautifully unfold. Who do you think he's talking to here, Iran or Israel? The markets are loving what is happening with oil prices way down and stocks way up. We expect a complete ceasefire on all fronts, including Lebanon, Hezbollah, and Israel. Very clear. But as good as this is, this will only just provoke Israel to keep going, right? Yes, Israel is probably going to continue to maintain aggression. Again, I show this, but just an hour ago, I guess now at this point, 2 hours ago, Iran threatened to reclose the Strait of Hormuz just right after it had opened, because Israel is not withdrawing from Lebanon. Israel has said they are not withdrawing from Lebanon. Israel has already said they will not be agreeing to the terms in the MOU. So, if the entire American government is signing this MOU and is on board with it, at least externally, and Israel breaks it and everything goes back to the way that it was, when Trump has admitted we were 4 weeks away from running out of oil, essentially, what do we do? This is the dynamic I'm saying I don't really have a solution to. I don't really know where it's going to go, because I can't imagine Israel backing down, and I can't imagine America stopping them. Isn't there somebody you forgot to ask? It's funny because under normal circumstances, it actually would be like really bad of us to do this to Israel. Like, considering the fact that Israel's nominally our ally, going through back channels to sign an MOU without even showing it to them, even though the MOU applies to them as well, is actually a massive betrayal of Israel. The only reason is, like, we have to do this because they're fucking insane, you know? Like, it's under normal circumstances, our behavior here would actually be like really morally reprehensible to Israel, but we have to do it because they are psychopaths and will not agree to anything. Yes, Trump just openly said that Iran should get to have ballistic missiles. Yeah.
So we'll be working on a parallel effort with the Gulf nations to address non-nuclear issues such as the conventional ballistic missiles, which we'll be talking about, and support. I mean, they have to have some because other people have some. You got to have some. Somebody said you shouldn't give them one. I mean, I have guys. I like some of these guys, but I don't think they're smart. Sir, you shouldn't let them have any missile. I said, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to let Saudi Arabia have missiles, but they can't have them? Yes, sir.
This is the shit Hassan Piker be saying that gets him called a terrorist by the UK government.
Work that way, you know? It doesn't work that way. And missiles aren't the problem. Missiles they hurt a little location, but they don't blow up the planet.
By the way, J.D. Vance repeated this today.
Help us understand President Trump's shift on his stance for Iran's ballistic missile program. Initially, it was a key objective to dismantle it. Yesterday, he said it would only be fair if they had some, if the countries around Iran also had some. So when and why did that change? And will the final agreement have any restrictions on these missiles?
So we destroyed a substantial number of their ballistic missiles and their ballistic missile launchers themselves. It's not just the bullets, but it's the actual gun. And that's what we were extremely effective at in destroying during the last 3 months of the campaign. All the president said yesterday is that, of course, countries don't give up the right of self-defense. Israel doesn't give up the right of self-defense if Hezbollah fires rockets or drones at Israel. The Iranians don't give up the right of self-defense in their country, but we do expect that as part of the final deal, they are not going to be able to build the kind of missiles that can broadly threaten.
How far we've come. Iran has the right to defend themselves. That's actually this. Iran has the right to defend itself. J.D. Vance incredulously talking to like Smotrich after a visit to Israel. Do you think the state of Iran has a right to exist? The fucking Republican Party is going to start calling Zionists Islamophobes at this rate. Like overnight, everything has changed, which is a reminder, by the way, that everyone in power already knew that we were correct. Like the underlying political framework we endorse, one in which Iran is treated like a real country that can be negotiated with and not like an insane, like ontological evil that can only be opposed. Vance and everyone in the Republican administration already knew that was correct. Everyone knew that. Everyone already knew that Israel has a right to defend itself. Don't you think Israel has a right to exist was bullshit. Everyone already knew that we were mistreating Iran, and they're just flipping to it now because they have to. We were always right. We were always right too early. And yet, somehow, I just can't imagine Schumer co-signing this. You think Israel would ever try to assassinate Trump over this? I guarantee you there are people there talking about it, though I don't think they're going to do it. But I guarantee you they wish they could.
This way, if it works out, I'm going to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm blaming JD. You better be careful, JD. He's going to turn his plane around and get the hell out of here. Yeah, I like that idea. I think it's...
He's so funny.
Yeah. You said in the press conference, you said you don't mind Iran having ballistic missiles. Can you elaborate on that? I want to make sure we understand your position.
No, I'm saying that if other countries have them, it's a little bit unfair for them not to have some. A ballistic missile is not the same thing as what we're talking about when we talk nuclear. But if Saudi Arabia and Qatar and they all have some, I would say in relative proportion, I think it's okay. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Iran has a right to defend itself. Is this Vance being his own man? No. I mean, it's just the ideologically Zionist wing of the Republican Party asserting its power. A Democrat's career would have been ended by saying this. I just don't know where we go from here. I don't know what the Republican Party is supposed to do with its own base. I don't know what Israel is going to do. I don't know what the Democrats are going to do. I have no idea what happens. I have no idea where we go from here. None. I have no clue. It's beyond me. Can we admit it's not anti-Zionism, but anti-Semitism from J.D. Vance to the far right? I don't think J.D. Vance is acting out of anti-Semitism here. I mean, he's probably an anti-Semite incidentally, but I think this is more just factions within the Republican Party understanding that we will literally, like, collapse unless we do something, and the something that has to be done is we have to turn on Israel. No doubt anti-Semites within the Republican Party, like the, Groyper types or whatever, are going to lose their shit loving this. But I think that this isn't being motivated by a sudden turn towards anti-Semitism, rather a sudden turn away from, like, the brink, You see some statements from Chris Murphy that were not terrible if you want a sample of one single Dem in their statements. That's not really a sample, right? I mean, I guess that's a sample of one. No, what I'm interested in is seeing what the Democratic Party does broadly. Because again, I really can't imagine.
I think that fundamentally, if you look at what they're proposing.
Here he is in the Megyn Kelly show. Look at how many coordinated media appearances J.D. Vance is doing in a row where he is the guy advancing the memorandum.
They're proposing.
This could be big. And depending on how the Republican Party handles their own infighting and how the Democrats pivot, it's very possible that this is the 2028 line.
An endless conflict. They want this to go on until every bomb has been dropped or until every Iranian is dead. That is not what the President of the United States wants. What he said is, I said about this to end their nuclear program, to eliminate their ability to threaten their neighbors and project power, and to fundamentally make sure that no future child would have to deal with a terrorist regime with an atomic bomb. That's why the president set out to do this. He feels, and he's right, that he's accomplished that goal, and now we can get to the negotiation to see what are the other benefits that we can get from this, and frankly, what are the benefits the Iranians could get from this if they behave. I just don't think that people...
Oh no, is Vance about to be better than Newsom, like, legitimately? I mean, look, I'm already saying I would prefer Vance to Newsom for accelerationist reasons, but if the 2028 line is genuinely a Republican Party trying to break with Israel versus a Democratic Party trying to negotiate some kind of moderate support for Israel, that makes the moral line even more clear than it was before. Again, we'll have to see how the Democrats respond to this, and I really do not know how well the Republicans are going to pull their party towards this position, considering how powerful evangelicals are within their base. But evangelicals are also, on average, like, very stupid. They're cattle. I don't know. I don't believe Vance. Oh, he's a liar, sure. But what he's doing right now is a betrayal of Israel. There's no, like, this is not kayfabe or whatever. This is actually happening. Under, or like through J.D. Vance, the Republican Party is turning its back on Israel. Or at least it's trying to.
Who are criticizing this, one, they're not actually dealing with the reality of what's in it. And number two, they don't have an alternative. If your alternative is just to drop bombs without any clear goal or any clear American interest implicated, then you're not making the wise decisions on behalf of the American people. The president is, and that's why we're in this position.
Remarkable. They're going to try to bring back all the people they lost over the Iran war.
Senator, are you okay with Iran having missiles?
You know, I'm hesitating. I'd prefer that they not. I certainly don't want them to have long-distance missiles. I don't want them to have nuclear-armed missiles. I would prefer they didn't. But I don't think that's the key issue here. I think that they have to be able to defend themselves. And I just kind of come back to the big picture here, is that the Middle East countries like this agreement.
You think Iran needs to be able to defend itself?
I do. I think that they have to be able to defend themselves. Otherwise, we turn this into a forever war. You're never going to get them short of boots on the ground of surrendering everything, an unconditional agreement, if you will. But again, what I'm getting at here is this agreement has the support of most of the countries in the Middle East, and I think that's going to give it more of a long-lasting relationship, a long-lasting success as well.
I fucking warned you guys. I fucking warned you. I warned you. I warned you this might happen. What world are you living in? You are living in the world where everyone in power who is not mentally ill already always knew that we were correct. Every statement we made about Israel being insane, warmongering, and having America's interests not only not in heart, but like openly antagonistic to them, everyone already knew that. It was just a matter of how much they could get away with and how much they could kick the can down the road. Everyone already knew we were right. The left. Right again. Everyone knew. Everyone knew this. Everyone in power was willing. At some point, in the back of their head, they knew something's going to have to be done about Israel. They've smeared you. They've called you anti-Semites. They've doxed you. They've put your name up on billboards. They've said you can't go to college. You can't get a job. They have kicked you out of country. They've banned you. They have, at every level, socially and politically, they have tried to destroy you for agreeing with a position that they all quietly held in their heads, which is that Israel is fucking insane. And they will bring about the end of the world unless something is done about them. Everyone knew it. The question is, now that the Republican Party is finally acknowledging this, are the Democrats going to as well? Are they going to pathetically follow in J.D. Vance's footsteps now that are they finally going to be brave enough to acknowledge the obvious fact that we have all known since the beginning, now that J.D. Vance has taken that first bold step? Or are they going to do what Schumer's doing right now and, like a coward, attack the details of the memorandum without suggesting a preferable alternative? Democrats will not be helping Trump send $300 billion to Iran. So it looks like among the groups trying to undermine the memorandum, we have Israel itself and Chuck Schumer. So that's cool. I mean, if the Republicans are smart, they could possibly leverage this into doing better in the midterms than expected. You know? The future from this moment does not look good. No, it does not. If the Republican Party is successful in running this pivot, they might be able to run away with 28. What is Chuck's problem? I think I might know. Oh. It's basically a June surprise. June surprise. Republicans finally wise up to the fact that there's no way of negotiating a settlement with Iran with Israel's consent. Are we witnessing the Republican Party now becoming the actual America First Party? And that was the day Trump finally became the president. Fucked up thing is we have to vote for them if they go anti-Israel and the Dems don't. I mean, the Zionists do represent like the apocalypse cult, man. If Democrats can't break free of them.
That's not, I saw the Axios report, that Netanyahu is fuming. That's not reflective of the...
Yeah, we've heard this clip. Why is the bloom turned up so high here? To be fair, every evil thing Israel does from now on will still be on the Republicans and everyone knows it. I don't know that. I don't know that at all. The support for Israel has been a bipartisan effort. behind on stream, but the Clintons are being more critical of Israel as well. When is this from?
Well, you're absolutely right. When I was secretary, it was a constant, theme by Netanyahu and his then government.
Remarkable how, so for one, the Clintons have, at different points in time, been more openly critical of Israel, but it is remarkable how they were waiting for permission for the Republican Party to give them the okay. Like, the war's been going on for a couple months now, and Israel's been conducting a genocide for a couple years. You could have done a press tour at any point saying, hey, when we were president, when we were Secretary of State, we were anti-Israel. But no, instead, yeah, they wheeled Bill Clinton out to defend the Democratic Party ceding ground to Israel during Biden's administration. They were waiting for permission from J.D. Vance because they were waiting for permission from Capitol. Capitol has sided with the Republican Party, so the Democrats now, like little fucking worms, are crawling out of the dirt. They're going, oh, it's possible to align with Capitol interests but not be openly deferential to Israel? Thank you for permission. Now we see. Now we know we can do it. There is no Democratic Party.
The then Defense Minister Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister, it was relentless. It was a constant push. You know, I remember...
what would he say to you?
Why say this now? Why say this now? Yeah, why wheel out Bill Clinton to chastise Arabs in Dearborn for not being pro-Biden enough during the genocide? And then now, literally the day after the signing of the memorandum, you come out and you're like, actually, we were always critical of Israel.
What?
What would he say to you?
He would basically say, you need to support us in attacking Iran. And back then, this was, 2009 to the end of 2012, we had more capacity than Israel did on several fronts to do that. And so there was a constant argument that we would have. And I remember one...
It's dated June 15th. Oh, you're right up there. So after the beginning of the memorandum negotiations, but before the signing then.
Day, I was on the phone for hours with Ehud, with Bibi, with others, and they would say things like, our planes are on the tarmac. And I'd say, well, good luck. I mean, great. Why are you doing this?
Where else would planes be other than in the air?
But on the tarmac, ready to take off. Yes. Well, no, they'd be in the hangar, but they were on the tarmac. And you would say things.
So you're saying you were being played
all the time, all the time. I mean,
by an ally.
What is Bosch talking about? The Dems didn't go to war for Israel? I mean, the Dems co-signed the Israeli genocide of Palestinians and lied to defend Israel for years and years. Like Biden purged, under Biden, the Department of State was purged in order to prevent an acknowledgement of Israeli war crimes that would have openly made our arms sales to them illegal. Defended them, lied in favor of them. And even now, Schumer has said he does not support the Memorandum of Understanding. Right now, 2 hours ago, on Twitter, Schumer, who, for some reason, when people defend the Democratic Party, they always act like Schumer's a random senator and not the Senate Majority Leader, which he has been for many years. Like, I don't know why they act like Schumer is not a like it would genuinely. It would be like Trump says something and we act like he's just a random congressman or so. I don't understand it. Schumer is the closest thing the Democratic Party has to a leader. He's the Senate, not majority, minority leader. Schumer vocally opposed Obama and the JCPOA. Yeah, of course. No, we've talked about this. Yes. Chuck Schumer opposed the JCPOA because he wants greater Israel. He wants perma-war. And he opposes this as well. So how can we say the Democrats aren't co-signing the war when all they do is contribute to its causes? Clinton brought China into the world, into the WTO. Even worse decision than the Iran. Wait, what's wrong with bringing China into the WTO? What? And don't forget, Biden didn't try to reinstate the JCPOA when Iran reached out. No. Biden was just basically refused to engage with Iran. Like, Biden was totally deferential to Israel. I'm not getting gaslit on this. Iran reporting Trump was desperate. We truly are losing this. Yeah. Trump he literally said, like, we had 4 weeks before the oil ran out. It's not speculation. Do you think if the Dems were in power and they started the Iran war, would they concede like this? I don't know. I don't really know. Entering the WTO supposedly enabled the economic rise of China. How is that bad? How is allowing China, the world's largest manufacturing economy, into the international body that regulates trade, bad in a way that relates to us starting a war, ceding power to Iran, and then how is that bad? They're basically funding Russia's war in Ukraine. What the fuck are you... What? China's a whole... Wait, you think that China should just be relegated to economic obscurity for... Wait, you realize that the economic liberalization of China has pulled it further away from Russia, right? What do you... I'm sorry, your name is Greater Profit. You're a liberal. It's bait. Take 30 days. Come back when the news isn't this important. You can come back on like a break day. Like, it'll be a good bit when I'm playing video games. Not on like a big news day, you know? Pentagon reveals use of Musk's Grok AI for strikes across Iran. No wonder we ran out of munitions so quickly. 2,000 munitions. Yeah, just like, I don't know, use all of our Tomahawks, man. Ben Shapiro's blaming JD Vance for the deal. Oh, I bet. Oh, I bet. I bet.
Say there, Ben. Well, I've said many times, the president deciding to go into Iran and to hit...
This is a really tough situation for me politically, because right now what JD Vance is fronting is objectively good. America has lost this war, and America must abandon Israel. In this sense, the memorandum is a morally good thing. I support the memorandum of understanding. It represents America's loss, a concession to the morally superior Islamic Republic of Iran. This is good. On the other hand, it is very, very bad that the Republicans are the ones doing this. I hope you understand that by allowing Republicans to flank them from the left in this issue, Democrats are essentially signing every civil rights issue and every immigrant rights issue away forever. What Democrats are essentially saying is they are so committed to Israel that they will cede political power to Republicans and give them the right to molest your children, sell your daughters into slavery, and kill all trans people, as long as it means Democrats aren't technically the ones who turn their backs on Israel. They're willing to give up all of those issues. JD Vance being the one to front this is very, very fucking dangerous. Didn't you just say they haven't been outflanked yet, but it's possible? I mean, we'll see how it goes. Schumer has openly said he opposes the Memorandum of Understanding, and he's the highest-ranking Democrat, and he has just openly said he opposes it with no alternative solution. Schumer is essentially saying he would prefer infinite war, collapse of the oil economy, no petroleum, everyone dies, etc., to this. So, like, you know, the Democrats have to reckon with the statements of their leaders. Schumer is representative of the party. He has been elected within the Democratic Senate to be their minority leader, you know? His statements are representative. True, but the spineless worm he is, he'll flip when the wind changes. Schumer has never flipped against Israel. Not once in decades. He might be a worm, but he does have real beliefs. Unfortunately, it's a belief in mass death.
Nuclear facilities in Operation Midnight Hammer, and then to go after Iran's ballistic missile facilities, nuclear facilities, Army, Navy, and Air Force in this current operation was the signal act of political bravery, perhaps, of my lifetime. With that said, this MOU appears to be, just from the text, a disaster that does not achieve any of the actual signal goals that were set by the administration at the
This is true, of course, but, you know, Ben would just prefer infinite war.
beginning. There were effectively 5 goals that were set by the administration at the beginning. One was ending the nuclear program, not just nuclear weapons, no nuclear enrichment, zero enrichment. That is not in the deal. Ballistic missiles ended. That is not in the deal, and the president today suggested that ballistic missiles should actually continue to be held by the Iranians because the Saudis, our allies, also hold ballistic missiles. Then you have the support of terrorism. That is not part of the deal. Anything that looks like an attempt to end terrorism. A permanent opening of the Strait of Hormuz toll-free. Not only is that not in the deal appears to have a provision allowing Iran and Oman to attempt to toll the strait after 60 days. And then finally, the idea that Iran would receive some sort of sanctions relief after all of those things happen. We are already seeing from day one relief in their ability to ship oil out of Iran. In my opinion, the Vice President of the United States, the chief negotiator on this particular project, has not well served the president.
So just to clarify.
Can I get the full segment on this? Can I get the full segment on this? I would really, really like to see the back and forth. I would like to see this very much. I want to see as much Republican internal division as possible.
60-day negotiation period. More on that coming up momentarily. The naval blockade on behalf of the U.S. is lifted, and then Iran reopens the Strait of Hormuz. This one right here, $300 billion reconstruction plan. Where's the money come from? Going to be a lot of questions about that.
Here we go. I found the full one. It's short.
And also to what the president had to say there, Ben.
Well, I've said many times, the president deciding to go into Iran and to hit nuclear facilities in Operation Midnight Hammer, and then to go after Iran's ballistic missile facilities, nuclear facilities, Army, Navy, and Air Force in this current operation was the signal act of political bravery, perhaps, of my lifetime. With that said, this MOU appears to be, just from the text, a disaster that does not achieve any of the
Here, it was one of the things that was missing in the JCPOA, any control of the Iranian missile program. So we'll look for more detail on that. Here's the president talking about what he sees as an overly aggressive posture from Israel in Lebanon in the recent part of this war. Watch this.
In all fairness to Bibi Netanyahu, who happens to be a good man, gets a little excited sometimes. We have a little dispute over Lebanon. I say, you can do a little softer touch, Bibi. You don't have to knock down a building every time somebody walks into it. That's
Again, everyone always knew that we were right. Every single time the left has been called irrational or insane or anti-Semitic for saying this, we were always correct. All the disingenuous, bad faith, NAFO-type liberals who have been screeching and clenching their teeth and arguing that, no, all of this is part of a genuine good faith effort on Israel's part to manage its security interests. Everyone always knew that was bullshit. Everyone. The Republicans knew they were lying. The Democrats know they're lying. They just fronted it for as long as they could before reality had to break them into place.
Hezbollah, but it's been an amazing partnership. But he will say, we're the big partner and he's the very small partner, and that's true.
Your thoughts on that, Ben?
The fact is that the president himself has suggested...
I'm shaking. My thoughts on that? I'm quivering with anger.
...that Israel has a right to defend itself. Ambassador Huckabee, our ambassador to Israel, has said that Israel has a right to defend itself. Hezbollah is a terrorist group. It is not the government of Lebanon, and in fact is opposed to the government of Lebanon. And they've been firing ordnance over the border at Israel for literally years at this point. The idea that Israel should be held back from defending itself against a terror group that is a proxy army of Iran, because we have some sort of deal over the Strait of Hormuz, is a massive tactical blunder that gives Iran one of the things that Iran actually wants, which is to reconstitute its forward operating base in Lebanon. And anything that allows them to reconstitute their terror army would be a huge regional mistake.
All right. Ben Shapiro, thank you very much for weighing in today and joining us. Always good to have you with us.
That's a very short segment. Very short bit. Cruz sounds alarm on Trump-Iran deal, warns against handing billions to, quote, theocratic lunatics. We do that every time we pay our taxes.
Giving billions of dollars to theocratic lunatics who want to murder us is not a good idea. I think the president, unfortunately, is receiving bad advice on this deal.
I was just going to ask you about the Iran deal, what you think about it.
Lindsey Graham doesn't even want to fucking talk, dog. Lindsey Graham is straight up Lindsey Graham was straight up tying the hangman's noose at his office. He's gone. He's filling up the bathtub. He's got the toaster plugged in. He doesn't want to talk right now.
Donald Trump couldn't explain why he got into this war. Remember, it was going to be about regime change. And now he can't explain how to get out of it. But what I know for sure is right here in Congress, the Republicans need to grow a spine, and they need to stand up and say both enough of this war and not giving everything away to Iran.
Peace has been the norm. I think when it comes to the development of nuclear weapons, the language is the same. We went to war for what? The idea of doing something in the Straits of Hormuz. The Straits were being used peacefully before our invasion, and now we have to negotiate they'll be used peacefully in the future. We lost
So
American
fucking
lives
old.
and billions of dollars, and I've yet to see what we've achieved.
Iran is now going to be able to export their oil and gas, rake in billions more. It's going to get access to its frozen assets. And what is Iran giving up for this? Nothing. Nothing. They're merely reaffirming what they've said before about nuclear weapons. So
Correction, the $300 billion is not coming from taxpayers, but from private investors. My understanding is that the $300 billion is guaranteed in the text of the memorandum, but the private investors thing is just what the Republicans are saying right now, so they don't have to admit the money's coming from us. Like, I think they're coping on that. $300 billion from private investors? Is that a fucking joke? $300 billion? You have any idea how much money that is? The $300 billion from frozen assets? No, it's not. The frozen assets are a separate amount. I think they're saying private investors right now the same way they did for the ballroom because they don't want to openly admit the money would just come from taxpayer payouts.
this is a great deal for Iran. I just don't understand the thinking at all.
I have not seen it. So.
Like, they're reparations. Why would they be paid by private investors, you know? The more Senate Republicans learn about Trump's Iran deal, the more they don't like it. It's the worst foreign policy blunder in decades, said Senator Bill Cassidy. Yeah. Cassidy, who recently lost re-election to a Trump-backed primary challenger. Oh, no. Oh, the outflanking. Oh, the outflanking. Israel's negotiating with the U.S. to keep its troops deployed in southern Lebanon. Sorry, bucko. Sorry, Israel. We're not actually in charge down there anymore because Iran said, I'm sorry, Mom said you can't be in Lebanon anymore, and it's really not up to us, is the thing. You can't negotiate with us. The memorandum's been signed. It got signed in the Palace of Versailles. You can't negotiate your way out of this one, Israel. Not with us, at least. You need to go begging to Iran. Can you please let us invade Lebanon? Please let us rape and kill and set up little fucking genocide outposts. Let us raise your villages to ash and then set up little settler colony posts that we can then use to extend our security blanket across all of Lebanon. Please, we need death. We need rape. Please. Will evangelicals vote Dem if GOP abandons Israel? I don't think they'll vote Dem. Though, as unlikely as it is, there is like a very slight possibility that we head down the timeline where evangelicals end up posturing towards Democrats because the Democrats are more Zionist. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Republicans blast Trump's Iran agreements as details emerge. Trump calls critics fools. Yeah. Oh, yeah. GOP Armed Service Committee, Senate Armed Services Chair comes out against Iran deal. Roger Wicker, chair of the Senate Armed Services Committee, said he was concerned about the MOU. Yeah, we'll see about the $300 billion coming from private investors. We'll fucking see. Thing is, Republicans are so submissive. Yes, but again, the real, like, unbreakable line here is, what is Israel going to do? They've already said they're not going to stop invading Lebanon. Netanyahu and every other politician running to replace Netanyahu has said they're not going to stop with Lebanon. So what happens if this deal gets broken because of Israel? Without America backing Israel, Israel's a lame duck. They have nuclear weapons. And at the very least, even if they don't have the ability to win over the entire Middle East, they do have the ability to break the memorandum, which means the strait closes again, which means oil collapse. So yeah. This is where all the screaming at Dems for supporting Israel paid off. All this does is tell everyone what we all already knew. Every single leftist who was screaming at the Democratic Party to be more pro-Israel was more pro-Democratic Party than the Democratic Party, and every liberal defending them. When Biden continued to sell away our country and its soul to Israel, when every Democrat continued to play along with the big Zionist lie, they were acting against the interests not only of America and the world, but also of the Democratic Party itself. Sorry, less pro-Israel. You said more pro-Israel? Well, I meant less pro-Israel. You understand the sentiment. We were always right, and we were always acting in the interest of the Democratic Party. If the Democrats had done the right thing, if Biden, after October 7th, if Biden had taken the exact same tone as the Clintons did back in the 1990s and just straightforwardly said, yeah, sorry, that sucks, and that was bad and everything, but no, you can't do a genocide. You cannot now spend the rest of my presidency doing a genocide and forcing me to defend you at every turn, every step. We will not be doing daily Secretary of State briefings where we just lie to defend you over and over. If they had done that, we would not be in this position right now. The Democratic Party would be more popular. We would not have this weird, AIPAC flank within the Democratic Party. We could have replaced Schumer and Jeffries and gotten over with it already. But no, the lefties had to be right too early, again, and now we have to deal with this fucking crisis of identity within the Democratic Party, where we were legitimately going to be asking the question internally, are we willing to be more left-wing than the Republican Party on this? Or are we going to let J.D. Vance be the sole voice of reason? This didn't have to be complicated. Supporting Israel was never a liberal position. Yay. Yeah, I'll watch the video. The TLDR news.
Since the US and Iran announced their Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, there have been persistent rumors that the deal could include a multi-billion-dollar reconstruction fund for Iran to compensate for the damages incurred during the war. On Tuesday, US President Donald Trump essentially denied the rumors, posting on Truth Social that, quote, the story that the US is paying Iran $300 million is fake news, put out by the Democrats. However, on Tuesday, Bloomberg published what they claim to be the full text of the MOU. And, well, point 6 of the 14-point document apparently reads, the United States undertakes, together with its regional partners, to create a comprehensive plan agreed upon by both parties for the rehabilitation and economic development of the Islamic Republic of Iran, while ensuring financing of at least $300 billion. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the deal, this $300 billion fund, and explain why, as politically embarrassing as it might be for Trump, this could be genuinely great news for the Middle East.
It's TLDR news taking the accelerationist pro-Iran perspective.
Trump has launched so many military interventions that it's kind of hard to keep track. So in the latest issue of our
anything else you want out today? Yeah. Actually, let me upload that chunk before we get into this fully. If you're heading out soon, because, second, upload that and upload this. There's a lot there. The J.D. Vance and Trump say Iran has a right to defend itself. Or maybe Iran has a right to defend itself, dash J.D. Vance and Trump. That one should go out like fucking immediately because it's fucking insane. I don't know if you're listening, so I typed that out as well. Okay, I'm uploading that. Oh, you are there. Okay. Fucking insane, man. I can't believe the timeline we're in right now. Genuinely fucking psychotic. Okay.
Magazine too long, we go instance by instance earlier this week. However, there are a couple of surprises in there. The first is that contrary to Trump's original Truth Social post, the MOU does not in fact oblige Iran to immediately or totally open the Strait of Hormuz. Rather, point 5 only requires Iran to, quote, take steps to ensure that the movement of merchant ships from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman and vice versa is resumed within 30 days, taking into account the need for the removal of technical obstructions and the neutralization of mines by Iran. Nor does
the most insane, like, short-term outcome of this text is that when Israel inevitably causes the MOU to be invalidated because they cannot stop molesting Lebanon, that Iran positions America against Israel and allows their own ships to continue going out to China or whatever while the U.S. blockade is down. So we might actually reach a like several weeks where Iran just keeps sending out its oil and America doesn't stop them because America is desperately trying to get Iran to re-agree to the MOU. Like, this might end up working even better for Iran and worse for us because Israel's already looking to worsen the deal.
MOU specifically prohibit Iran from imposing tolls or service fees of some sort on the Strait of Hormuz, only that it takes steps to bring traffic back to its pre-war volume. Second, while we always knew there was going to be some sort of sanctions relief involved, the US has agreed some pretty striking measures. Point 7, for instance, states that the United States commits to ending all types of sanctions currently facing the Islamic Republic of Iran. Point 11 also states that the United States undertakes that, in the light of the progress of negotiations towards a final agreement, frozen or restricted funds and assets of the Islamic Republic of Iran will be released and made fully available. Obviously, much still depends on progress in further negotiations, but the fact that the US has, in principle, agreed to withdraw effectively all sanctions on Iran...
Could there feasibly be a timeline where America goes to war against Israel? I mean, that sounds absolutely insane. I guess I just don't really know what we're supposed to do if Israel just insists on violating the MOU over and over and over and over and over again, and Israel just will not let global peace reign no matter what. I don't think America will do it, but I don't know what America can do, you know?
Nonetheless represents a pretty massive concession. The third and final bit worth mentioning is point 14.
But it's interesting, too, because, like, the specifics of Vance's rhetoric in his New York Times opinion interview suggests that he is trying to pressure Netanyahu into giving it up. And I don't know if that's going to work. Listen to this.
Do I think that there are maybe, I don't know if Bibi thinks this, but do I think there are people within Israeli society who would like to turn Iran into Libya, basically a failed state with 90 million people? Probably, but I don't know that Bibi wants that. I've actually never had that conversation with him. It would be an interesting conversation to have. I'll tell you right now, is Iran turning into a Persian Libya good for the United States of America? Absolutely not. Do I think that there are maybe...
Like, he's lying here. Netanyahu has said very openly how he feels about this, but he's trying to give Netanyahu an out. Like, hey, man, we're going to pretend we're going to do the bad boyar, good czar thing, okay? We're going to pretend that it's just your advisors giving you bad info. They do this with Trump. When Republicans criticize Trump, they do this with him too. They say, well, we think Trump is getting bad information from the people around him. They don't attack Trump directly. He's doing it right now with Netanyahu. He's essentially saying, Netanyahu, back the fuck off. We'll pretend this isn't your fight, you know?
Which states that the final agreement will be approved through a binding resolution of the UN Security Council. For those of you who don't know, the Security Council is the only UN body that can impose binding decisions on its 193 member states. The Security Council has 5 permanent members: China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States, who are collectively known as the P5, as well as 10 other non-permanent members who rotate on 2-year terms. For a resolution to pass in the Security Council, it needs 9 affirmative votes.
Since Gaza's not part of the deal, could you see Israel pulling out of Lebanon? Well, the text of the deal does leave Iran leeway to beef with Israel over Gaza as well. They talk about respecting territorial sovereignty, and Israel's incursions into the West Bank are illegal under international law. It's possible that Iran just wants to focus on Lebanon right now because that's the active invasion, whereas, like, obviously Israel's already invaded Gaza and the West Bank long ago. But the text of the MOU does give Iran the ability to make legal complaints about those acts as well.
And no negative votes from any P5 member, who each have a veto. What's interesting about this is that the last Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA as negotiated by Obama, was also approved via a UN Security Council resolution. But this wasn't enough to stop Trump from unilaterally pulling out of the JCPOA in 2018. It will therefore be interesting to see how or if the UN tries to strengthen any subsequent resolution in order to guard against another American withdrawal in the future. Anyway, you get the idea. The MOU, as published by Bloomberg, is even more embarrassing for the US than most people expected. And then, on top of it all, there's this $300 billion fund. This is going to be especially politically difficult for Trump and the Republicans, given that they spent a lot of time criticizing Biden for handing over $6 billion in frozen funds to Iran as part of a hostage deal. And Trump was previously an advocate for maximum pressure sanctions. However, in Trump's defense...
You're right, Masaigo. I really do need to reduce the maximum text limit for VGG posts. I agree. No, I agree it's an impossible position.
It's worth noting that this fund isn't actually going to be funded by the American taxpayer.
Allegedly. We'll see how it goes.
In other words, the US isn't just...
Like, he's lied about this before.
...paying Iran $300 billion straight out of the coffers. In fact, according to another report by Reuters, published on Tuesday, the money is actually going to come from private companies, who have already, according to Reuters at least, committed more than $150 billion. National governments will apparently do certain things to encourage investment, like securing loans, establishing credit lines, or maybe even directly financing reconstruction for sites damaged by the war. But the bulk of the actual investment is expected to come from the private sector. In some sense, this fund is trying to fix a long-standing problem for Iran, and especially Iranian moderates, namely that historically, sanctions relief hasn't worked as well as expected. For context, in previous negotiations between Iran and the West, the Iranians have essentially offered concessions on their nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. This gambit was especially popular with Iranian moderates, who hoped that sanctions relief would encourage massive foreign investment in Iran, which would help Iran build economic and eventually political relationships with the rest of the world. Unfortunately for the moderates, this never really happened, in large part because there was just too much uncertainty. Private investors didn't really understand how the sanctions worked and were very worried about falling foul of them. And there was always some anxiety that they'd be reimposed later down the line, which, to be fair, is exactly what happened in 2018. This is a phenomenon known in the literature as sanctions over compliance, and it became a real problem for Iranian moderates because it lent credence to the hardliners' arguments that sanctions relief wasn't worth.
When the sanctions are gone, Tehran's going to be flooded with Western tourists. Oh, yeah. And I can't wait. I can't wait to go to Tehran.
And Iran should thus give up on negotiations. Anyway, if this fund can actually get money flowing into Iran, it could be lucrative. Iran has some incredible untapped economic potential. Before the war, Iran's total GDP was sitting at a mere $400 billion or so, but its oil and gas reserves alone are roughly equivalent to those of Saudi Arabia, a commodity-based economy with a GDP of about $1.4 trillion, while its population is about as large and educated as that of Turkey, a non-commodity economy with a GDP of about $1.6 trillion. The point we're trying to make is that with sufficient foreign investment and an even moderately competent government, Iran's economy could multiply in size, and this would be great news for both ordinary Iranians and the wider region. The latest issue of our magazine is out now.
Incredible stuff. Incredible stuff.
Now, in terms of the $300 billion investment fund that's being discussed,
hey, Graham,
what are your thoughts on that? And then in a sort of separate...
My thoughts are that rebuilding Iran with the people in charge today a bit problematic for me. the Marshall Plan, we rebuilt Germany, but the Nazis were no longer in charge. So we'll see where this goes. I'm open-minded to the deal. I haven't seen the details, but at the end of the day, pursuing an end to Iran's nuclear ambitions through diplomacy makes sense to me. Trying to end their desire to be the largest state sponsor of terrorism through diplomacy makes.
He seems deflated. Yeah, I wonder how he's going to thread this needle. Like, I wonder what side he's going to take when it becomes increasingly clear that Iran's not going to tolerate Israel remaining in Lebanon. It's already happening, by the way. It's not just talk. As of 40 minutes ago, Iran delegation suspends Switzerland trip over Lebanon attacks. Iran's negotiating delegation suspended its trip to Switzerland because of continuing Israeli attacks in southern Lebanon. Remember, the Memorandum of Understanding is only creating a 60-day ceasefire during which final details are meant to be established. The source said the delegation had been preparing to travel for the first round of talks under the 60-day negotiating process before deciding to suspend the trip. Tehran had informed the American side and mediators that the Lebanon file was central to... Lebanon file? Was central to the negotiations and to whether they would continue or be suspended. The source said Tehran had warned that continued Israeli operations and attacks 10 kilometers inside Lebanese territory constituted a flagrant violation of the first clause of the Memorandum of Understanding and Framework Agreement. Whew! It's crazy how bloodthirsty they are, man. Israel can't even pretend to stop for 60 days. They can't even pretend. They can't even pretend. It's crazy. Like, not even... Their population is so bloodthirsty that they would fucking implode. They would implode if they were just given... Like, just 60 days of not molesting Lebanon. But they couldn't... They can't do it. They can't do it. Death Gooners. Wikipedia is updated to declare Iranian victory, and I think that's beautiful. All right, Wikipedia, I've given you money before. Where has it been updated to, right side? There's a lot of stuff on the right side. Oh, here we go. Yeah, result, Iranian victory. Islamabad memorandum, regime change failure, Strait of Hormuz. Yeah. Yeah. It was strategic victory before, and they changed it to not be qualified. Yeah, no, because it's not just a strategic victory. It is a victory on all fronts. It's not like Vietnam, where Vietnam lost in every engagement. Not every, but you know what I mean. But America lost in the sense that we failed to achieve our objectives. In this case, Iran has won on every front. They are getting everything they wanted. This would be like if the USA dropped 2 nukes in Japan, then gave them Hawaii. Yes. Yeah, seriously. Man. I wonder if there's any more information on Tehran canceling their trip to Switzerland. This is from 3 minutes ago, Al Jazeera English.
Turning now to another issue, J.D. Vance, the U.S. Vice President, who was speaking, as we said a short while ago, addressed the topic of Israel, and specifically the topic that Israel...
We will talk about the Ukraine drone strike in a sec, guys. You can't keep posting about it. You're going to make me annoyed. I'm going to be irritated now. Do you want me to be mad when I start it? It's based as hell. You want me to be mad when I start it? You can't. It's like the 20th time people have posted about it. We're talking about a historic fucking American strategic loss right now, okay? We'll take the funny haha drone strike in a bit.
And has been, broadly speaking, critical of the deal that the U.S. has signed.
Want to see the new water bottle I got? Take a look at this. Look at this fucking the Yeti 64 ounce. We're going to try to drink one of these every day. I can barely get my fucking mitts around this thing. It's actually quite difficult to hold. I really wish they had like a grip of some kind, you know? It is a white girl cup.
With Israel, which is a deal that actually ties Israel, that commits Israel in multiple ways and commits its behavior across the Middle East in the sense that Israel is not allowed to fight Hezbollah. That's in Article 1 of this 14-point Memorandum of Understanding. So J.D. Vance addressed the criticism coming from Israel. This is what he said.
My message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the President of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the President of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in.
I swear to God, I'm going to take the entire snippet that just played. I'm going to make that the fucking dono sound. Just every time a $2 dono from Abe Lincoln on YouTube chat comes in, it's going to be just a 40-second soundbite of this.
Bringing in now Alon Pinkas, former Israeli diplomat. You were, Alon, the consul general in New York for Israel, now a columnist at the New Republic. Thanks for joining us. What do you think of what you just heard from the U.S. Vice President, J.D. Vance, saying essentially the U.S. is your only friend. Be thankful for what you have.
Well, he's right in stating the how the U.S. related. But I think he's wrong in assessing Mr. Netanyahu's part in this. Mr. Netanyahu is behind 90% of the attacks on President Trump. Yes, there are pundits. Yes, there are commentators out there who don't necessarily feed off Mr. Netanyahu when they criticize Trump. But the general notion in Israel, fueled by Mr. Netanyahu, is that Trump abandoned Israel, that Trump threw Israel on the bus, that Trump dumped Israel, choose your euphemism. And so J.D. Vance is telling the truth when it comes to pontificating, don't do this to your greatest ally, that Mr. Netanyahu is completely disillusioned with Trump's behavior.
Donald Trump, when he spoke at the conclusion of the G7 summit in France last night, he said this. He made the point that, in his view, Israel is going to end up liking this deal, even if they don't now. And the reason, he said, was that it gets Israel the most important thing they wanted and needed, which is that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. All of this is the framing, of course, of the U.S. president. But what do you think about that? That ultimately the deal works for Israel, and Israelis will come to see that because it cuts off a path to a nuclear weapon for Iran.
It's crazy how they're accusing America of stabbing Israel in the back, like how the Nazis accused German Jews of stabbing Germany in the back. It's genuinely insane. It's such a mirror of history. It's laughable. Like, the narrative right now with the Zio-Nazis is that the treacherous Americans, by signing the treaty at the palace in Versailles, undermined Israel in their glorious military ascension, that they would have won this war had it not been for the cowardly United States signing the treaty at Versailles. Like, okay, Kojima, you've gone too far this time. It's literally like it's too much for Kojima, man. It's too much for Kojima. It's too much. Whose side the signing place? Macron, I think, in this case. Was it actually signed at Versailles? I thought that was a joke. No, that's real! That's real! They actually made him sign it at Versailles.
fact. What we do know for a fact is that the original Iran nuclear deal in 2015 did the exact same thing that you just mentioned. And yet it was still Mr. Netanyahu who talked Mr. Trump in 2018, 3 years later, to unilaterally withdraw from that.
Okay, I actually like what you're saying, but your audio is so bad that I can't tolerate this. This is from The Guardian. Amid the celebrations from Shehbaz Sharif, who served as mediator for the deal, the MOU has proven more divisive, eliciting a mixture of outrage, bewilderment, and relief. The leaders of G7 countries welcomed the deal. European leaders have been sidelined from negotiations. Macron said it would put a stop to a situation of great instability. In Israel, however, the agreement has been greeted with less optimism. Mark Regev, a former senior advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, questioned how seriously Iran would approach negotiations over its nuclear program now that America has removed the economic and military pressure. Under the terms of the MOU, Iran will reopen the Strait of Hormuz and in return receive waivers for U.S. sanctions on crude oil exports, petroleum products, Quote, the straits are open and Iranians can start exporting their oil, and therefore they get money coming in. You've taken away the economic pressure, said Regev, adding, quote, maybe Trump will get a great deal, but at the moment I don't see that. I see America having given Iran's regime a return to life. Regev's views were reflected across Israel. Yair Lapid, the leader of Israel's opposition, said on Tuesday, Netanyahu promised us a historic victory, and we got a crisis with the Americans. Hormuz open to the Iranians, money for the IRGC, ballistic missiles aimed at Israel, and Israel waiting in the corridor like a scolded child. It is literally the great lie over again. After the Treaty of Versailles, the big myth the Nazis pushed was that international Jewry, and especially German Jewry, sabotaged the war effort and cost Germany victory in World War I by pushing for defeat in this signing. International Americanry, the real specter. No, it is an almost perfect mirror of that situation. It's perfect. It's flawless. With Israel set to hold elections before October, Lapid and his coalition partner Naftali Bennett are seeking to capitalize on the anger brewing in Israel over the agreement between U.S. and Iran. Trump, who has previously enjoyed high approval among Israelis, is facing widespread criticism in local media. David Horowitz, a founding editor of the Times of Israel, wrote on Wednesday the U.S.-Israel war in Iran was lost due to U.S. presidential weakness, among other issues. Netanyahu's Likud party, apparently aware of the cooling views on the U.S. president, has reportedly scrapped plans to highlight the prime minister's close ties with Trump in its upcoming election campaign. You know what this means, don't you? Netanyahu and his opponents are all going to be competing to who can posture the most against America's quote-unquote backstabbing here. It's pretty wild. Oh, this is the myth? Yeah, the stab in the back myth. Or the Dolchstoß legend.
Dolchstoßlegende.
Legende. Whatever. Is an anti-Semitic and anti-communist conspiracy theory that was widely believed and promulgated in Germany after 1918. It maintained the Imperial German Army did not lose World War I on the battlefield, but was instead betrayed by certain citizens on the home front, especially Jews, revolutionary socialists who fomented strikes and labor unrest, and Republican politicians who had overthrown the House of Hohenzollern in the German Revolution of 1918 to 1919. We're seeing it brew again, lads.
The skies over Israel are now clear. No incoming missiles, no sirens blaring thanks to the U.S.-Iran deal.
All of this led up to World War II, so what happens this time around? Well, if history were to perfectly mirror itself, what would happen now is an all-out, like, Israeli assault on the region, where they try desperately to make the Third Temple happen, and they use like they commit to total war rather than the sort of partial social commitment they've been engaging in up until this point, and that the only way for them to be stopped is for America and other world leaders to intervene. That would be like the perfect mirror. The perfect mirror would be that. Of course, yeah, Israel is no Germany militarily, and also they have nukes, so kind of like points on both sides there.
But there are no celebrations in Israel, and it's not just because the government is against any deal with Iran. For one, Israel was shut out of the negotiations. The deal also ends the war in Lebanon, something Israel outright rejects. Its forces now occupy 20% of the country, demolishing entire villages in the south. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his troops will not withdraw from Lebanon or abandon the occupation there in Syria or Gaza.
I want to make it clear, we will remain in these security zones for as long as necessary to protect our...
Wait, are you saying Israel's now stronger than Nazi Germany? I mean, in absolute terms, yeah, they have nukes. No, Israel could not, like, conquer the entire Middle East. They could certainly try, and they do have nuclear weapons, so that's pretty scary.
Country.
Washington is unhappy, and Donald Trump is not mincing his words.
I've had a great relationship with Bibi, but now Bibi has to be more responsible with respect to Lebanon.
Pump it into my veins, man. I can't believe how many liberals have spent the past, like, 3 years trying to gaslight the left and pretend that, like, Israel wasn't an insane fucking lunatic rogue state that hated the United States and had nothing but resentment towards us, even though we've done so much to protect them.
But Netanyahu's position appeases his base and diffuses political backlash and buys him valuable time. Iran and the U.S. will have at least 60 days to reach a final deal. That's plenty of time for Israel to manage this crisis and try and decouple the Iran and Lebanese tracks. In Israel, many say that the best option now is to try and corner the weak Lebanese government into a deal. Iran says
the Lebanese government's pretty weak, but I really don't think they're going to literally let you annex 20% of their territory.
Lebanon is a red line. World leaders have welcomed the U.S.-Iran deal. They too say calm must be established in Lebanon. Derailing the Iran deal will impact the world economy and global food security. The U.S. and other countries have plenty of leverage to keep Israel in check. The coming weeks will reveal if they're willing to use it. Noor Audi, Al Jazeera.
It's just up to Israel. Israel, like the sane, sensible thing for Israel to do right now is for them to fall to their knees and just accept that they've lost and will always lose because they're a loser country full of psychopaths. But I don't think they're going to do that, man. I don't think they're going to do that. Just to be a devil's advocate, Vosh, would you say the U.S. has also saved Egypt, Jordan, and other Arab states from Israel in the past? How is that devil's advocate? Yeah. We've forced Israel after the 6-Day War, after the invasion of Lebanon. We've forced Israel to back off before. It's just that like we've only taken half measures. If we assume Israel happened, no matter what, like the Nakba happened, Israel was established, like at multiple points, we should have realized what the writing on the wall was, and we should have crushed Israel. The American government back in the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s had plenty of time and plenty of opportunity, especially before they got their fucking hands on nukes, to just say, sorry, Israel, you're actually fucking crazy. We're just going to do to you what we have done to many countries around the world that we have that we consider inconvenient in some form or another. We're just going to, you know, keep you on a very short leash and do a coup. But it's too late. They got nukes. I don't think it was justifiable to the last few decades. Dog, Israel was founded with a ethnic cleansing, and then they fucking invaded Egypt. Israel invaded Egypt. They threatened the fucking... They threatened the goddamn Suez Canal, man. They've always been psychopaths. They're fucking crazy. It's a nation born in blood. No, like from literally from like beginning to end. It's the whole reason they exist. All right. I do not have a huge amount of time, and there's like legitimately so much fucking shit that we need to talk about. So I'm going to need to short run this a little bit, okay? 1 second. There are 2 things remaining that we're going to talk about today. Gotta go fast. Yeah, you get me. Gotta go fast. Da-da-da-da-da. So, an amusing update on the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool that you've probably already been made aware of if you've been on social media today. What is the material on your shirt? I like the texture. This, I'm glad you asked. This is a houndstooth cotton linen blend. It's very lightweight. Thank you. Take a look at that. Some nice like gold pearl snap detailing. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Thank you. Anyway.
Up already. It was a pretty blue if you minus all the algae green, but it's peeling up already. Look.
So, yeah. The hydrogen peroxide they dumped into the tank to control the algae, which you can see didn't work. The tank is still green. Not the tank, sorry, the pool. Has also loosened the blue paint. So there will just be chunks of blue paint floating. They're going to have to drain it again. Yeah, I don't know. It's not consequential on its own. It's just like, it is remarkable how they fuck literally everything up. Genuinely, like, it's like this is going to continue to be a problem for the rest of the administration. Nothing had to happen. All they had to do was clean the fucking algae filters. That's it. That's all it took. That's the only thing that they had to do. That in total, the pool is going to cost America like $100 million on this. This paint chunk is flapping in the breeze. Look at that. It's beautiful. Look at that. New video reveals a massive chunk of dislodged blue paint has breached the surface of the reflecting pool. Look at this. It's the most disgusting, wretched pool in the world. And this is happening the fucking... as we bend the knee to Iran, man. That's America's flap right there. What a time to be in the DC area. Oh, dude, take some selfies. Taking selfies of the like Trump Death of America swamp is way, 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 way funnier, way better than taking selfies at the pool when it's like not, you know, falling apart. Dude, look at this, man. What the fuck? How can you see this and not believe in magic? How can you not believe that the wiles of the world whisper portents of the future to you if you are but open to their cries? How can you not believe that? When the Romans consulted oracles before engaging on their campaigns, and they were right to do so, and we have failed to do so, and that is why. That is why we are where we are right now. I'm literally a witch, I do. Fucking gay people, man. This happened because the Moon Girls cursed him on TikTok or something. All of this is downstream of that one time witches astrally projected to fight Allah and realized that he was much stronger than they thought. You don't believe that, Vosh? You explicitly denounce mysticism? Maybe. I do think evil twists your face, though. Don't be an F-slur, chatter. I can't believe they poured hydrogen peroxide in the pool. They poured enough to not kill the algae. They didn't pour enough to kill the algae, but they poured enough to dislodge the paint. It's just... I love this country, man. We get some good news and cover the Supreme Court allowing weed smokers to own guns again. It's actually huge news, and it's really, really, really good news. But it's going to have to wait till tomorrow because I only have a bit of time, and I'm going to use the remaining time to talk about the enormous strike on the Moscow refinery. Even though chat was very annoying to me. They were very, very annoying to me. They love annoying me. They love posting links that aren't about the thing that I'm currently talking about. They love bothering me. No, in a devastating, like, parallel strike, the two most evil regimes on earth, Israel and Russia, have been dealt savage blows near simultaneously. A massive combined drone strike has hit a Moscow refinery, penetrating deep into Russian airspace, and has lit them ablaze. Huge, 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 huge dub. The funniest thing I've seen, and I've seen like a million fucking videos on this. Look at this. They struck an oil refinery in Moscow and perfectly busted the cap on the oil tank. Look at this. Look at that. That cap is like 100 feet wide or something. That's huge. Popping the cork, man. See it from a different angle? Oh, please. Oh, please, more? Oh my god. Look at that, dude. I see nothing but horrors. Listen, man, Russia is basically just cold Israel, and Israel is just warm Russia, okay? Once you see the code in the Matrix the way I do, you realize. New Russian space program. A lot of Israelis are from Russia. Yeah, genuinely. Like a huge number of them. How many Russian nationals in Israel? About 20% of the total Israeli population is made up of Russian speakers. Not Russian nationals necessarily, but Russian speakers. It's like a huge number. Putin once made a joke about Israel being a Russian-speaking nation, Lamau. So Israel's Russian California? That's not a bad way of thinking about it. Best part is there's video suggesting it was actually Russian anti-air that blew up the silo. I'm not qualified. Huh. You know that it does kind of look like that. Yeah, it does look like that. That's funny as fuck. What the fuck was that air defense missile trying to do? We aim at ground. Drones hit ground, we aim at ground. Heat seeking, and I assume an oil fire is hot. It can't be that simple, but I will believe it. That's bullshit, but I believe it. Yeah, I guess so, man. Jesus Christ. New Russian space program. You've been missing all the action. Ukraine's been using Starlink-connected drones to wipe out large numbers of air defense systems, leaving Moscow open. Thank you, Elon. Fuel shortages being reported across Russia by local government. Yes. Unable to meet domestic military and civilian demand, let alone export for money. Yes. Is it finally happening? It's a great day, man. Iran wins. The great Satans, Russia, Israel, and America defeated. Fuel supply bottlenecks are tightening in Russia after Ukraine drone strikes and oil refineries led to fuel disruptions in several regions. This could just be the beginning. Pressure on the fuel market expected to increase in the coming months. Some fuel stations have imposed restrictions or halted gasoline sales entirely. Occupied Crimea's situation is particularly tense. Fuel shortages ensured after recent drone strikes have disrupted traffic along the so-called Novorossiya Highway, which links the peninsula to Russia's Rostov region and serves as a key supply route for fuel. Oh, man. Injected straight into my
fuel
fucking
restrictions
veins,
in Crimea have been causing long queues for more than a week. Now the knock-on effects are being felt more broadly, with literal signs of food shortages. This one says more sugar is on its way, and some residents say food rationing is already happening.
They told us in the food store in Sevastopol that we can only buy 3 packs of noodles per person, but there aren't any.
Friendly reminder, Ukraine's made it illegal to criticize Israel. Remember that Ukraine's deference to Israel is because they rely heavily on Western support and are desperately, pathetically trying to avoid inflaming tensions. I guarantee you that Ukraine is going to change their tune once they realize the Western world no longer requires everyone be subservient to Israel. It's realpolitik. It's not like a genuine desire on their part to bend the knee. The real pressure to bend the knee comes primarily from Israel itself, America, and Germany. Like, Ukraine is in a desperate war for survival, trying to fight against like the actual total destruction of their nation. But they're not the source of this. They are not like the root cause of Zionist sentiment here. That being said, like, yeah, no, I'm not saying Ukraine's government is perfect, because it's not. But like, it's Russia and Israel, man. About as bad as it gets.
Bans in the suburb where I live.
Supply chains are being disrupted by Ukraine's almost daily strikes on Russian oil infrastructure. Moscow has acknowledged that's causing problems for Crimea.
Measures are being taken to ensure that this issue doesn't get any worse. Our Ministry of Energy is currently working on it. There are indeed certain problems, and a comprehensive set of measures is being developed to address the situation.
Nuts, I believe they're referring to the fact that a Russian air defense missile struck their own oil depot. I disagree with Vosh on this. It's not so black and white. I'm not saying it's black and white. When I say Ukraine's not perfect, that's me saying it's not black and white. I have never at any point said Ukraine is white, to carry your analogy. It's just that Russia and Israel are incredibly fucking evil. They're super, super, super evil. And unlike America, Israel and Russia are like totally committed to this project. America has been for several years now, but I think, and maybe, you know what, maybe you'll accuse me of a bit of chauvinism here. I think that there is a version of America that is not evil. I think that America has enough of an internal, like, domestic, cultural, social weight that is separate from its Zionist and colonial ambitions that you could theoretically have in America that is in many respects very similar to the one that exists right now, but is not fundamentally evil. Israel is built on blood and war. Like, Israel, down to its root, is committed to this. Russia, not so much, but their government, yes, because they're not a democracy, right? Like, in order for Russia to not be what they are, you would need more fundamental changes, I think, than America would. In order for Israel to not be what they are, they would need, like, basically pulled from the root up, man. Israel's so fucked. Israel needs to be forced to not be what they are. But, you know, pardon me for my limitless optimism. I think there's a version of America that can pull it through. Will we live in that version? Probably not, no. But theoretically. Moscow covered by a black cloud. Yes, of course, God is punishing them for their evil. Oil rain being reported in some parts of the city. Yeesh. Like the music. I'm biased, obviously, but I think you're over-equating Israel and Russia. Israel's government and Russia's government act very similarly, from their constant posturing to their militarism, to their expansionist ambitions, to their weaponization of ethno-nationalism, to their constant dishonesty and their government-fueled propaganda departments. The difference, of course, is that Israel is culturally committed to this, whereas most Russians are like, they support Putin as a strongman, but I think that the average Russian is a lot more disconnected from the war effort than the average Israeli. It obviously depends on where in Russia you are. I think that Israel is a lot more ideologically fascistic, even though in practice they're both probably operating at about the same level of, well, at least on a militarism front. It's complicated. Anytime you're making a broad generalization like X country is like Y, you're putting yourself in a position where any level of like specificity is going to lead to the differences cropping up. By and large, I think that Russia and Israel are both acting on the same underlying motivations. I think that Israel, though, Israel's definitely more dangerous because Israel's being backed by a legitimate death cult, like an ethno-nationalist suicide death cult. But Russia is mostly just oligarchs trying to make the most what they can. They both threaten posture nukes, but I don't think Russia would use them. I think Israel might. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's a big difference between like a fervent, militarized, zealous fascist state and like a state where you just live under a shit authoritarian government that you like, you know, maybe you support, maybe you don't, but you're just kind of resigned to the drudgery of your miserable Russian existence. I don't know. It's a generalization. What matters is that Russia and Israel are losing. I heard most Russians gave up on politics/democracy. Well, they've literally never lived under a democracy. So, you know, they get a little bit of plausible deniability for that. They never had the opportunity to build up a democratic civil society. Israel has been nominally democratic for its entire existence, and they still pivoted in this direction. The average Chinese probably has more sense of civic-mindedness than the average Russian at this point. 100%. Absolutely. Easily. Yeah. I would probably wager a bet that the population of Russia is like the most apathetic in the world, or very high up there. Yeah, 100%. Like they were for a time a superpower, but they have never tasted democracy. Like they have been the most failed by politics. Not because they have been oppressed by stronger nations. The Soviet Union was very strong. It's because they've just collapsed and failed and failed. If I was Russian, I probably wouldn't believe in politics either. More than Egypt and the Middle East? Oh my God, yes, absolutely. There was a moment when it could have been, but Yeltsin? Yeah, there was a moment, but it could have been, but the fucking shock doctrine. Iran could have been democratic too. Yup. Overwhelming majority of Iranians favor democratic governance in Iran. 89%. God damn. But they do like having a strong leader who doesn't have to bother with parliament and elections. I mean, that's the dichotomy. Vosh, so Russia is what you fear America might become based on you talking about apathy death? Yeah, 100%. They're like my model for it. Russia is what I think of in my head when I imagine a country that has been so beaten and beleaguered by oligarchs and capital acquisition and inequality, and it doesn't matter who we vote for, the outcome's always the same. That's like that's what I imagine. And now it's a desolate wasteland ruled by pedophiles and billionaires. It's like the end state. It's one possible stable end state of capitalism, which is that you don't even have the zealous self-destruction of overt zealous fascism because the people are too disengaged to even be zealous. You just have like a permanent wasteland, permanent death of civil society. People just drink themselves to death and do nothing. People will stop forming relationships, stop breeding, and the country just slowly rots and withers and dies. I think that a lot of the West is on this path currently. We're not quite as far along as Russia, but that Russia is what I imagine when I think of that. Yeah, they are the country that I most imagine. It's worth remembering that, like, nah, too sophomoric. Too sophomoric. We'll get there. I always wonder what the fuck is going on in Eastern Russia. Alcoholism and wolves, I assume. Say it, pussy? Okay, sure. If you've played the hit video game Disco Elysium, the political disenfranchisement, apathy, and disregard of the population of Revachol is modeled off of the post-Soviet Eastern Bloc. Like, if you're wondering what motivates it or like where that comes from, you know, the difference being, I think the attitude is very different in Soviet occupied states like Poland or the Baltic states or whatever versus Russia itself. Remember that every nation that was occupied by the Soviet Union had like a narrative that they might be able to spread their wings were they not living under repressive Soviet rule. But Russia itself doesn't have that narrative. Like Russia can't say, "Oh, now we finally get to do democracy now that we're in charge." They were always in charge. Hence apathy. That's what's going to happen in America, man. We've always been in charge of America. We've never been ruled by anyone else. America's never been ruled by the UN or ruled by Israel. We've always had a choice. We just kept making the wrong ones. And now it doesn't matter, and the outcome remains the same no matter who you vote for or don't vote for. Democracy happened, and it didn't change anything. That's the great apathy death. It depends. There are regions like Tatarstan that see Russian rule as foreign rule. That's true. Yes. No, you're correct. Yes. Russia is an empire. All right. I have to go. Folks, huge news day today. I hope to follow up on it tomorrow with like a properly lengthed stream. The only reason I wasn't here yesterday was because unfortunately I had a pretty bad headache. You know, I can't really complain about my headaches as much as I used to. But man, when they hit, they hit. Maybe I should get some muscle relaxants. My headaches are tension headaches, not migraines. I don't get migraines. If they're tension headaches, they're caused by, or at least worsened by, bad posture. But my posture's good is the issue. Like, I'm pretty conscientious about it. So I think maybe I just need a really good massage. You know? Maybe it's your sleeping position? Yeah, the sleeping position definitely is probably a contributing factor, but I don't know why, because my posture's good. Do you exercise? Yes, and I stretch quite often. Pass patches. There are a number of potential solutions to my problem. At any rate, everyone take care. I'll see you guys soon.